Jessie here. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. Today's video is going to be my budget setup for the fourth and final week of July. It's almost August, you guys. Can you believe it? We're actually going to be covering the last of July's bills as well as the first of August's bills. The way that I do my budget is not necessarily monthly. It's paycheck to paycheck. And this paycheck is going to cover everything from July 28th through August 4th. So all of the bills for the first couple of days in August and the last couple of days of July are going to get covered here. The income came in July, and so it's part of July's budget. But just know that I don't really budget that way. I don't budget by month, I budget by paycheck. So we're going to be looking at all of the bills and expenses that fall between the 28th and the 4th. So that's Walmart and Lowe's here. And then flipping back to August, we've got my lot rent, water, cable, Patreon, and Audible. So those are all the bills we're going to cover. We're also going to cover all of my typical weekly expenses. So if you are interested in checking that out, which I'm assuming you are since you clicked this video, just keep on watching. So I have my budget by paycheck workbook here. I have the printable version, which I love because I'm able to print the pages that I need and leave off the ones I don't, where nothing is getting wasted. And I have chosen to use a disc binding system. So I print the pages just using my typical at-home printer. I do print them double-sided, so that it's perfect for bookbinding. And then I use an arc punch to punch them. It's a great big huge punch that works with this Happy Planner disc system. And that's what I have them on. I have the Happy Planner discs, and I just use those to bind all my pages together. I have laminated the cover pages that come with the printable, and it makes the perfect little workbook. So I have turned to a July page here. This is going to be paycheck number 4, so we'll go ahead and write that in. And this is the paycheck that my husband received on July 28th. Is it July 28th? Yes. July 28th. If you're not familiar, I'm a stay-at-home mom, so I don't bring in income on a regular basis. I do bring in a little bit of money through this YouTube channel, and sometimes I babysit and stuff, but I don't have a typical 9-to-5 job. So it's just my husband's income that we live on. All right, let me zoom you guys in so you're going to be able to see what I'm doing here. It's paycheck number 4. I don't disclose my husband's income. He's not comfortable with that, and I respect that. So let's just go ahead and get started. So there's paycheck. So the budget by paycheck workbook is broken down into sections. You have a section for your bills, a section for cash envelopes, sinking funds, extra debt, and extra savings. The way that I do things is I break it up by those categories, but more specifically, break it up into stuff that gets left in my bank account, money that gets left in my bank account, and money that's pulled out in cash. So anything that is under this bills category is going to be things that I pay using my debit card or my checking account. So it's not just the typical bills like, you know, the electric bill. It's also groceries, because we use our debit card to pay for groceries. I use the Walmart pickup service. And so that is going to go under bills, even though groceries isn't really a bill. So grocery. And I don't bother putting in a date because I always do my grocery shopping on Tuesdays. Groceries, I budget $150. That feeds my family of 4, myself, my husband, and our 2 children who are boys. Robert is 17, Austin is 12. We got very healthy eaters, so $150 is what covers our groceries. Next up, I have household. So my household expenses are primarily Amazon subscribe and save things. So I budget $30 and I just send that right to my Amazon credit card, which we currently carry a balance on. The whole purpose of my budgeting is to, yes, make sure my bills get paid and make sure that I'm not being overdrawn at the bank and whatnot, but primarily it's my goal to pay off our credit card debt. We do use some cards though, and we pay them off every month. We reap the rewards of the credit cards that way. But then, of course, there's the cards that we carry a balance on that we're actively trying to pay off. Amazon, right now, is one of the cards on our list that needs to be paid off. And so I'm contemplating stopping the subscribe and save, getting my household items from Walmart when I do my typical weekly shop, and then that way, you know, the Amazon spending is under control while we pay that card down. It's not the card we are currently working on with our debt snowball. And in fact, it's the card that has, I think, the highest balance, so it'll be last on our list. So I might take this household item at some point and combine it with groceries and just get my household items from the grocery store. I don't know, I haven't decided yet, but you might see this change in the future. For now, household is going to remain a $30 budget. I'm going to send it to my Amazon card to cover our subscribe and save items. Just know that might change in the future. The great thing about personal finance is that it's personal and you can change it and change your mind, and it's great. The budget doesn't have to be exactly the same. You can make changes, and that's kind of the point. You know, if you're seeing that you're constantly over budget in a category, that's probably an indication that you need to raise that budget or lower that budget. And that's what I love about budgeting, is that it's fluid. You can change your mind. Okay, that was a long-winded thing there. So that's household. Next are those bills we talked about. So Walmart, that is a credit card. You guessed it. It's a minimum payment though for the credit cards. So we pay the minimum payments on all of our credit cards, and then we focus on one card at a time, the card that has the lowest balance, and we send all the extra money that we can to that card. And slowly, over the course of weeks and months, pay it off. And then once that card that we're working on is paid off, we take the minimum payment that we were paying to that card and we add it to our debt snowball, the extra amount that we can send to the next card. And so slowly you build up how much you're sending, sort of like a snowball. You know, that's that. But for now, we're not working on Walmart currently, and the amount that we are budgeting is $110 for that minimum payment. Also, we have a Lowe's card, and the minimum payment on that is $100. That is not one that we are working on with our debt snowball. The card that we're working on right now with our debt snowball is a Capital One card. We are pretty close to having that paid off. I think we have just like $500 left on that card, and it started out around $1,200 or $1,500, maybe even more than that. I don't remember, but we've been making big strides to pay that down. Next up, we have lot rent. So my husband and I own our home, and we actually own our home outright. We paid the mortgage off. It's just a very modest mobile home. It's a single-wide mobile home. It's nothing fancy, but we have completely paid that off. But we don't own the land that the mobile home sits on, so we have to rent the lot. We're in a mobile home community. We rent the lot. It's $510 a month for that. Someday we hope that we will have our own land or our own home and not have to pay this lot rent, but that's the situation we're in now, so no sense complaining about it. Next we have cable, and we recently, actually our mobile home community set up a contract, I guess, with our cable company, and we were able to lower our cable amount by going through our mobile home community. We're getting more for less money now. We were just paying $70 for internet. Now we pay about $65-ish, and we get internet as well as some cable channels, which Admittedly, we don't really use all that much. My teenage son likes to watch the cable, but it's still a savings, so we're gonna budget $65 for that. I think it's like 62 and change with tax and everything, but with my bills, I always try to round up a little bit, and that way we're covered even if things come in a little bit higher. Next is water. We pay our water bill every single month along with our lot rent and our cable, but you know, the lot rent number doesn't change. It's $510 every month, but the water fluctuates based on usage, so I like to keep these line items separate even though it's all going into one payment to our mobile home community. I just like to keep things separate so that I can keep an eye on the numbers, make sure that we're budgeting enough for everything. And for water, I'm budgeting $40. Next is Patreon. I'm a patron of a gentleman that does sort of a local weather forecast here in my area. He's very accurate. He's more likable than a lot of these meteorologists on the news, so I'm happy to give him my $2 a month to support his endeavor. He's not like a professional meteorologist. It's something that he does as a hobby, but he's incredibly accurate. He's able to do lots of up-to-the-minute, like, reporting, that sort of thing, so like him a lot. And lastly is Audible. My husband used to be subscribed to Audible, and he loves audiobooks. We took it out of the budget for a while and he canceled because he wasn't finding that there were a ton of audiobooks that he was interested in at the time, but we recently reinstated it because he found some new books to listen to, and I'm going to budget $15 for that. A lot of bills this week, but that is it for that. I need to pull my phone in here and open up my calculator. Okay, sorry about that, you guys. When I picked up my phone to pull out my calculator, I saw that I had 4 missed calls from my son. Sort of panicked, thinking there was an emergency. There wasn't. He was trying to make plans with a friend and is very impatient, apparently. So I called him in a panic, and he's like, I just want to know if I can go to my friend's house. So that was that little bit of excitement. All right, let's go ahead and do this math. 150 plus 30 plus 110 plus 100 plus 510 plus 65 plus 40 plus 2 plus 15. $1,022. Yikes, that's a lot. Okay. Just works out that way sometimes. Sometimes you have more, sometimes you have less. Next week, for example, I think I only have like 2 bills I have to pay. So that is a look at the bills. Next, we're going to move on to cash envelopes. So the way that I do cash envelopes is these are our typical weekly expenses, things that I like to have cash for. I guess that's pretty self-explanatory. I like to have cash. I have my wallet that has my cash envelopes in it. I like to be able to pay cash for some things. It helps control my spending. It's much harder to let go of the money if I have to have physical cash and say goodbye to it than it is just to swipe a card. So we actually have quite a few things that we pull out in cash. So starting with gas. I like to do our gas money in cash. And right now we do have a coin shortage, and so it's harder to spend cash. So what I've been doing is pulling the cash out of the bank and putting it in my various cash envelopes. And then when I'm finding that I can't use cash, I will just swipe my debit card or the credit card that we use and pay off. And then I'll take the physical cash out of the envelope and then put it into a separate envelope to get deposited back into the bank. So it's kind of a pain, I guess, to pull the cash out and then put the cash back in, but it really helps me stay on track with my spending if I'm, transferring the cash. So if you're finding that you can't use cash because of a coin shortage, but you really enjoy using cash, the tangibility of it and being able to count it out and see exactly what you have without having to do a bunch of math, that might be an option for you. Keep that in mind. So a lot of this cash is just being transferred from the envelope that I put it in into a bank envelope. But it still gives me the same sort of satisfaction of using cash even without actually using the cash. Alright, gas money. We always budget $50. And the way that we do our gas is this $50 covers gas for our personal vehicles. I got a question about this. My husband drives a company vehicle. He drives a big van that has all of his equipment. He works in the plumbing industry. And his company actually pays for the gas for that vehicle. So he doesn't need gas money to get back and forth to work. He drives his company vehicle. So this $50 is just for our personal vehicles. My F-250 Super Duty and my son's Saturn Ion. The reason I'm paying for gas in my son's Saturn Ion is because he doesn't have his license yet. We bought him the car so that he could get his driving hours and take his driver's test in it. And once he actually has his license and can drive on his own without us, he'll be covering the insurance on that as well as the gas. But for right now, he's just learning to drive in it. And a lot of times I'm driving it to go pick up groceries or whatever because gas in a little Saturn is much more affordable than it is in my giant F-250 Super Duty. So right now we're paying for all the gas in both vehicles. That $50 covers any gas that we need for either or of those vehicles, I guess. We're not driving them both. We're driving one or the other. So hopefully that explains it. $50 covers all of our personal gas for the week. We also have a gas sinking fund. So every week when I give us this $50, if I don't spend it all, you know, we only need 20 bucks in the gas tank this week, that other 30 will get stuck in our sinking fund. And then if we have a week where we need more gas than this $50, I can go into that sinking fund and pull that money out. So that's the 411 on gas. Next we have my husband's personal money. We do sort of an allowance system. We give ourselves a certain amount of money every week to use on whatever we want. We do that in cash. When the cash is gone, we don't get to spend in that category anymore. So my husband gets $40 and I get $40. And that's for whatever we want. If I want a lipstick or I want to buy a cup of coffee, his cigarette money is in there. He's a smoker. And that way, my husband's very hands-off with the budget. That's another question I get a lot. How did you get your husband to be on board with budgeting, and how do you get him to stick to your budget? My husband's very hands-off. He doesn't want to know what bills are due this week. He doesn't want to know how much money's in the bank. He wants to know how much he can spend, and he wants to know that our bills are being paid. And so he trusts me to take care of all of the bills and the budgeting, and he just takes his $40 at the beginning of the week, and that's all he really cares about. He never spends more than his $40. We sat down at the beginning of this whole budgeting journey and talked about how much he felt comfortable with in terms of his personal spending, and I give that to him at the beginning of the week, and that's pretty much it. That's the extent of his involvement. If I want to make large purchases, we'll discuss it. Also, if he wants to make large purchases, we'll discuss it. But for the day-to-day budgeting, he's pretty hands-off. I'm very lucky in that way, I suppose. He did the budgeting and the bill paying for years and years and years, but he was happy to hand it over to me when we started this debt-free journey. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm very, very talkative today. So let's see if we can knock out the rest of these envelopes. Eating out. We do like to have money for eating out. It makes us feel like not so restricted. If we were going to pay off all of this debt and do as Dave Ramsey says and go gazelle intense, we would be miserable and unhappy, and we would constantly break the budget. But giving ourselves the spending money and allowing ourselves to eat out every week really helps us feel less constricted. So if you have money in your budget to be able to do that, I recommend it. I know it's against what Dave Ramsey says, but Dave Ramsey, while being very smart and financially savvy, isn't the be-all end-all in budgeting. Sorry guys if you disagree. Lastly, for envelopes is miscellaneous. I like to build in a $50 almost buffer. $50 covers anything else outside of our budget. There's inevitably something that comes up every week that we need cash for that I didn't budget for. And so I like to have this $50 to cover that. This also helps if we go over budget a little bit with any of these other categories. It helps even things out. So that's it. I pull all of that out in cash that goes into my wallet and gets spent every week, essentially. So we're going to add this up. So we'll go ahead and add this up. 50 plus 40 plus 40 plus 50 plus 50, $230 for our envelopes this week. Next, we'll move to our sinking funds. Sinking funds are things that we know are coming up that we need to make sure that we plan for, but not necessarily weekly or even monthly expenses. Okay, so the sinking funds that I'm going to cover this week are campground, car tags, Christmas, haircuts. I went ahead and wrote these out while the siren was going off. It's like the emergency response test. It's the last Wednesday of the month. They always do that. So yeah, I was saying sinking funds are for things that we know are coming. And all of these are great examples. So we have a campground that we pay annually to have our camper there. It's both storage as well as camping amenities, that sort of thing. We pay like $1,300 every year for it. And so rather than wait until that comes due and trying to scrounge up $1,300, we just set aside a little bit every week / whenever we can, so that when the time comes to pay that, it doesn't have to come out all at once. Just a little bit at a time. So we're going to actually set aside $75 this week. Usually I set aside around $50, but I want to bulk it up a little bit. So there's that. Car tags is another one of those things that happens every year. I need to renew our car tags. So I set aside a little bit of money throughout the year so that it's not such a large expense all at once. This car tags fund is also a car maintenance fund. So, you know, if the car breaks down or we need new windshield wipers or we need an oil change, we're covered in that regard too. We're going to set aside $25 for this. Christmas is also going to get $25. I think Christmas is pretty self-explanatory. And haircuts. Whenever my kids need haircuts, I don't want to have to pull out $60 from my, weekly budget. I don't want to have to pay that out as a bill. I want to have the money in hand already. So we're going to do $25 for haircuts as well. My sinking fund total for this week is $150. Next up, we have extra debt. This is our debt snowball that I talked about. We're currently, like I said, working on a Capital One card, and our debt snowball amount right now is $128 a week. Once that Capital One card is paid off, that minimum payment will get added to this. We'll break up that minimum payment into 4. We like to pay our debt every week instead of waiting until the end of the month. It just helps kind of chip away at it quicker, so we'll take that minimum payment, which when we started paying that card was $70. So we'll take that 70, we'll divide it by 4, and we'll add that amount to this 128, and that'll be our new debt snowball payment every single week. So that is the plan for that. Lastly, we have extra savings. That's Savopoly. I've talked to you guys about Savopoly so many times. It's a fun printable. It's an easy and fun way to save a little bit of extra money. The difference between my extra savings versus my sinking funds is that this Savopoly money, the extra savings, is not for anything specific. It's just either for a rainy day or if we want to treat ourselves to a fun whatever. It's just extra money. And when I did my rolling for Savopoly, I landed on a property worth $10. So we're going to save $10 this week in extra savings. Just right in the totals there. So that's it. That's a look at my budget. I know this was very, very long-winded. I apologize, you guys. I don't know what got into me today. I was just super chatty. We're not quite done yet. We're still going to flip over and do the cash envelope breakdown. This is the other worksheet that I use from the Budget My Paycheck workbook. So I'm going to write down all the categories that I need to pull out cash for. That is our cash envelopes, our sinking funds. We do our sinking funds in cash, and that extra savings. I'm going to write down all those categories as well as their amounts, and then we're going to break it down by denomination so that I know exactly what the amount is that I want to pull from the bank and what the denominations are. So, alright, so for gas, we're going to want $50. I like to pull this out in smaller denominations just because of the coin shortage. So it's easier if you can pay with exact change, and so the smaller the bills, the more likely I am to have exact change. So we're going to do, let's see, 2 20s and a 10. For my husband's spending, he gets $40. We'll do 2 20s for that. My spending is also $40. I'm going to do 1 20 and 2 10s for mine. Eating out is $50. I like to break this down a little bit more so that I have tips for if we order pizza. And, you know, if we're getting things delivered, a lot of times places don't have exact change. So we're going to do a 20, 2 10s, a 5, and 5 1s. That's what I've been doing recently. It's been working out great. Miscellaneous, we're going to do a 20, 2 10s, and no. And we're going to do 2 20s and a 10. I like to use this erasable pen from Parkoo for just that reason. Sometimes I make mistakes, sometimes I change my mind. So we'll do 2 20s and a 10 for miscellaneous. Now these other categories, the sinking funds, this is not money I'm spending right away, so I don't feel like I need to pull smaller denominations. I can very easily use larger bills because this money is not getting spent right now. So for campground, we're going to do 75. So I'm going to do a 50, a 20, and a 5. For cart tags and maintenance, it's 25. We're going to do a 20 and a 5, not a 10. Christmas is also going to get a 20 and a 5 as our haircuts, 20 and 5. And then for Savopoly, we're just going to do a 10. So now I'm going to add these up. So we have 5 1s, 1 2 3 4 5 5s, 1 2 3 4 5 6 10s, 2 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 20s, and 150. So 5 5s is $5, 5 1s is $5, 5 5s is $25, 6 10s, wait, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 10s. Really, my erasable pen's really getting a workout today. So 7 10s is $70, 12 20s is $240, and then 150 is $50. So now I'm going to pull in my trusty calculator again. And we're just going to add up these totals. 50 plus 40 plus 40 plus 50 plus 50 plus 75 plus 25 plus 25 plus 25 plus 10 is $390. So that's how much we need to pull out of the bank, and I'm just going to add up the cash breakdown here and make sure that adds up to $390. 5 plus 25 plus 70 plus 240 plus 50 is $390. So perfect. That's what I'm going to pull out of the bank. Those are the denominations I'm going to pull out of the bank. I have a little cash teller slip I'm going to fill out from the Budget Mom I don't have that in front of me. I actually left it on my desk, so we're not going to do that together on camera, but I do it every week, so you guys know by now what that looks like. Alright you guys, so that is going to do it for the budget for the 4th week in the month of July. It's all set up and ready. If you would like to see how much I actually spend and whether or not I stick to this budget, you'll definitely want to subscribe. Early next week you will see a paycheck for results video where you can see whether or not I stuck to this budget. Also, if you'd like to see me stuff these cash envelopes that I talked about, check back on Friday for my cash envelope stuffing video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Leave me a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye-bye!